everyone? Welcome back to Ketchup Court. I go by the name of Heinz, your friendly neighbor Ketchup man. Okay, this is the trial day 4 recap of the Brendan Banfield trial. The state has rested their case, and it has been kind of a mixed bag of a finish, in my opinion. I had a lot of thought when I was monitoring this trial in the trial room, and I was just mystified at how it all ended. I'm going to go through the state's last testimony for day 4, the state's evidence as in totality. I'm also going to go through what the defense, what they have to contend with the evidence presented by the state as they prepare to put on their defense on day 5. And I'm also going to go through also the missteps that I pointed out, that I spotted as the prosecution were going on for day 4. So without further, let's get into the stream.
Your Honor, I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
Overruled.
Good call!
Okay, so my buttons were not working, so I do apologize there for the technical difficulty. But yeah, so as I was saying, when the state presented their case today, yesterday technically, when they brought in 2 witnesses, and it was Iris Graf, who was a blood pattern and specialist, an expert of blood pattern analysis, and what she was intending to do was establish what everyone's movements was, what the victim's movements would have been when they had got shot, and how that splatter, the impact of the splatter. Also, what also happened is they also introduced Christine Banfield's father, the second victim, because it was Joe Ryan, the first victim, and Christine Banfield, the second victim. Anyway, so they introduced Christine Banfield's father to testify. I'm gonna go into his testimony a little bit. I'm not gonna touch on it. I'm going to go into it later on, but I want to focus on Iris Graf, because when I saw her give the rundown of her experiences, etc., I was actually expecting a much narrower scope. I was actually expecting that she was going to testify in regards to Christine Banfield's stab injuries and how that would have impacted how that would have impacted this case going forward. And that's what I was expecting, but in reality, the focus was much more on Joe's movements and where the shooter may have been standing. And I believe that this caused a lot more issues for the state, because he just presented so many other avenues, in my opinion, that the defense could pretty much exploit on direct examination and the cross-examination, which we shall get to in a bit. He's going to exploit all that, but on direct exam, the foundation that was laid basically was the flow patterns of Joe Ryan. I made some notes in regards to, because it was very technical. What she had to provide was very technical, but I do think it was quite important, especially for how it ended, at least for me to illustrate how the day ended. So she basically testified in regards to the flow pattern. I had noted here that when Joe Ryan got shot, there was a flow from the chin down to the right. So just imagine that it didn't splat. That most of the splat, he got shot, it wouldn't have been splurted on, it would have been flowing down. And this is important for a number of reasons, because of the evidence that was presented by the crime scene analysts on day 1. The scene officers, they have presented evidence of the materials that they had taken from the scene, and also the many items which we are gonna get onto a bit later. So going down from the scene is going down from the chin down is what she described. Going right ear was flowing down is also what she described, because according to the medical examiner Kessler's testimony on day one, she said that Joe Ryan, there was gunshot residue on his right eye. I believe she said that was the entry point, and he got shot in the face, and also the right cheek going down from the left. So he got shot in the face, and there was also, I believe it was just one shot on the face. And also there was a demarcation of so the blood was not going through the index finger, which suggests that his hands was up when he got shot. This kind of suggests, at least when I was listening to the testimony, it kind of suggested that the first shot likely was to the head and not to the body, as I had thought, because I believed that listening to Juliana Magalhaes' testimony on day one and day two, I actually thought that Joe would have shot Ryan. Sorry, not Joe would have shot Ryan. Brendan would have shot Joe Ryan on the chest, and then from there Juliana would have shot Joe in the head. But it turned out it could have been the other way around, which I don't know. I actually don't know why they put on this testimony. I'm gonna explain what I think, what they were trying to achieve with this testimony, in my opinion, because I had a lot of thoughts earlier, but she did definitely confirm that there was a Christine Banfield's DNA was found on Joe Ryan's hand, and also Christine's DNA was found on the defendant's shoes as well, which I think is very important for a number of reasons. Christine Banfield being found, the DNA being found on Joe Ryan's hands, does prove what Juliana had basically testified to, that Joe was holding Christine down. That is a unique information that has now been corroborated by this testimony, as well as Christine's DNA being found on the defendant's shoes. I don't know how this would be the case if you were not on the wife and then got off her, and then her blood. This is part of the confusion, because for me, hearing that testimony for the first time, the first thought I had was she must have been dead already, or she must have been dead already, which is how he would have been. Brendan would have been able to get the blood on the shoes as he was getting off her to walk away, etc. Because unless you just jump on the body as you stabbed her, which what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't help the defense theory. So I'm gonna go into everything though, because everything kind of took a strange turn when she testified that she had to enhance the images that she had been given to see a bit clearer. And this was such an opening for the defense, because that little enhancement made the defense, especially on their cross-examination, which we are going to get to, and this is where everything got interesting, because the defense was mainly focusing on attacking the integrity of the investigation as well as the integrity of the evidence. And it started off here. Let me just share the screen. It started off here, where, remember the characterization of the evidence in regards to the evidence looking very in regards to the images looking very poor. That's where it started off, because the questions that was being asked by the defense was, let me just get to it. Let me see. I can't. My font size is a bit too low. It's a bit too high. Let's get to it. I believe it's here. I believe it's here. Let's get to it.
Okay. And do you know which of the handguns that it was?
Yes.
Okay. Which one?
Based on all of the documentation I had, this would be the gun that was Mr. Banfield's identified as his duty weapon.
The Glock 19M, would that be it?
That sounds right.
Okay. Now, just looking at what we know about this, so you know where the gun is, even though you're saying it's a dark object, and that's, you know where the corner of the bed is, correct?
I know that the firearm, when first officers arrived in the scene, it was laying on the southeast corner of the mattress.
Okay. And so you know where the blood stain is related to the southeast corner of the mattress, correct?
Essentially, the testimony there in regards to the gun was because of the original picture that was submitted on day one from the scene. According to her, it wasn't very clear. It wasn't very clear to be analyzed. Like as she says, she enhanced. I would have really loved for the defense to have gone to show and say, well, this is the original image and you had enhanced it. Do you think that there's a possibility that you have manipulated with the, like altered? I was hoping for that, but I did not, unfortunately, get the full substance of that testimony. But the next part that I want to focus on, I want to focus on is in regards to the gun being tested on the scene. And this is important because for you as a defense to get this concession from the expert witness, in my opinion, I think it's golden, because with a case delicate like this, you already have the evidence established from day one that the police had allowed Brendan to have washed his hand was covered in blood. She testified on direct examination also that she, being Iris Graff, testified on direct examination also that when the police entered the scene, that Brendan's hands was on Christine's neck. So, of course, why would you let him wash his hands off like that? Because he could have potentially been a suspect. That's the value of what we're about to see here. That's the real value of it.
Recall getting analysis of any swabbing of the gun itself.
Okay. But that would have
back a little bit. Yeah.
So what was on the gun?
I don't recall getting analysis of any swabbing of the gun itself.
So she didn't get any analysis of the swabbing of the gun from the detectives or whoever is responsible for contacting her, which I would assume is the DA. So they didn't give her that information to examine.
But that would have been the most direct way to determine if there was blood or blood of a certain person or some other basis upon which to draw a conclusion if that was swabbed, correct?
To determine the DNA profile, that would be, I would think, a preferable method would have been to swab it there as it's laying there. However, the gun was not left in that position. So,
okay.
So there were some other things to consider as far as what would be tested and what would not be tested.
Oh, so when you're talking about not being left in this position that's showing here, you're talking about when the first responders moved it to the other side of the bed?
It was officers that moved it, and this gun was moved twice.
Okay.
Based on the body cams, that's what I saw.
Okay. But
that testimony right there is why I said that the investigation and the integrity of it is literally it's not credible anymore. Like I don't think it's devastating, but I think it's enough to cause doubt that the information, or at the very least the samples that was collected on the scene, was likely contaminated, because they probably and this is why I say that. Let me go on to the next testimony, because They didn't even get this this gun tested, and I could, if you want to leave someone to the devices of, like, trying to think, why wouldn't you do something? Especially, it's going to, at least in my head anyway, is going to suggest that that it might not come back with the results that you prefer. Let's listen to the testimony that yeah.
And there's really no reason to test because we could see in the context of the scene, particularly in the body.
Let me go back a little bit too.
That depends on the extent.
But that would give you information that would be helpful in arriving at whatever conclusion you're trying to arrive at, right?
That depends on the extent of the analysis. Like I said, the one stain pattern, there's really no reason to test because we could see in the context of the scene, particularly in the body cams, the source of that, because the source was laying in that area when officers arrived. The other could be tested, as I say, either directly from the carpet itself or objects on the carpet that were also stained.
Now, the firearm itself, that would be something that you would probably want to be tested, correct?
I would probably have preferred that it be tested directly from that, but also consider the fact that it was moved twice by officers in the scene. So before I would look at any results on that, I'd want to know more about the officers moving it to be sure that they didn't disrupt it. That's certainly a consideration, and look at the pattern, if not the DNA.
And just so you're clear, you're talking about it being moved twice after what we're seeing on this picture, which is at the corner of the bed.
Yes, it was moved twice after officers initially entered the bedroom.
And which is really bad in my opinion. I don't think that actually helps the state at all. And the reason why I say that is because if they are already moving things and already and this was the gun that they chose not to test, so they didn't even know who was the one that shot from where. All they have is Juliana Magalhaes' testimony saying that she shot Joe last, and Brendan was the one to have shot Joe first. We don't have the ballistics for this. And the reason why I say that this is important is because there is, on top of no ballistics as well, there is also the fact that you just cannot objectively determine who done what. For all you know, it could have been Juliana shooting both of these guys. It could have been sorry, not both of these guys, just Juliana shooting Joe, and after, for all you know, the stabbing on Christine. Let's playing devil's advocate, giving an alternate theory, because from what I'm seeing here, there is an alternate theory. There's an opening that can be exploited here by the defense based on the cross-examination. And this next testimony is why I said that they don't have that objective fact, and for the defense to get her to testify to this particular detail is very important with this point.
What appeared to be satellite with a little bit of flow from that, and that direction of those flows was towards the floor, or in terms of the body relative to his body was front to back. I did not say that was a contact, and certainly did not say it was from fingers.
Now,
okay, so she just described Joe's flow pattern from direct examination. This is the part that I really want, because they are now going to factor in and bring in Juliana Magalhaes' testimony.
Review any evidence that informed you as to what Joe Ryan's movement was before blood was on him?
There's no way looking objectively at the evidence for me to determine what he was doing before there was any bloodshed.
Okay. If the evidence was that after he was shot, he started getting up again, so we would have blood, and he was starting to get up from his position on the floor, would that be something that you would want to consider in making some sort of a conclusion for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
any statement about what he may or may not have done would not have any bearing on looking at the bloodstains and looking at what I could determine, any actions I could determine based on those bloodstain patterns.
And that is great. And that is great because maybe they know the witnesses that was coming, and they knew that there was nothing. Maybe the defense knew that there was no more witnesses coming. So by highlighting the limitation here, because her job is objective, by making sure that she testified that she's not looking at external testimonies and speeches, which is what Juliana testimony was about. We don't have anything else to corroborate that specific testimony that she shot and Joe shot. There's nothing to corroborate that not Joe, I keep confusing the two, Brendan shot. And there's nothing to corroborate that either of these people had shot, you know what I mean, except for what Juliana had said.
You're receiving this case, you're not talking about what the homicide detectives in this case would have already found at the time that you started working with them.
I don't know what the homicide investigators themselves found or thought they had found. I was presented the documentation and I analyzed that documentation.
Okay.
And I don't recall ever having a discussion with any of the homicide investigators about what they thought they had found.
And that is key, because if she didn't have any thought, that means she did not hear about Juliana Magalhaes. Again, this is the central key witness for the state. You would think that they would want to get independent corroboration. So based on, I'm going to go into what the defense might do later on. So, but let me not get ahead of myself. The question was reasserted again, right? Here, when it says, and she was testifying to objective and analysis of, let's just play. You will hear it. Sorry.
What it is and what that tells me about this small portion of the scene. Any statements that anyone makes, I do not take as being factual.
Okay.
That's subjective as opposed to objective evidence.
Thank you.
You hear that?
And so, going along with what you said, the pictures of Joe Ryan laying on the bed and the dog bed where the saturation stain was, do you recall it?
There was a saturation on the dog bed, especially to his left and onto the carpet.
Okay. And so you ended up drawing.
Let me go back to the testimony.
Patterns.
Okay. Literally, this is a mess. This is a mess. I'll just say it straight. For you to just again confirm for the record that you are not going to factor in any objective evidence, any subjective evidence, and you're looking at only the objective evidence. That is something that you don't want to hear, especially when your linchpin witness is the only proof that you have for Joe getting shot. And shout out to you, Christine. Brooklyn. Good. Yes, it is a mess of a case. I think the state wants him to go free. I think the state just is throwing everything at it, because I personally think, based on the blood flow pattern testimony, the confusion caused there, which we're gonna get to now on the redirect, the confusion caused with the blood flow analysis has led to what is because I think that they were thinking that this was going to be a hung jury, and they were trying to present evidence to kind of suggest, at least give the jury the impression that the deal that was given to Juliana was not worth it. But when you hear the testimony about the gun, she shouldn't have been offered the deal, especially with the blood pattern and analysis. Let's just listen to the redirect. I've only got 5 minutes left. I'm only doing it for 30 minutes. I should have said that from the beginning, but yeah, it's only a 30-minute replay. Let's go into the final bit of redirect, which the state was focusing primarily on Joe's movements, and she being Iris Graf was testifying to where Joe got first shot, and etc.
But especially that it would have
Go back a little
or
bit.
to the pericardium, and that wound
I can't see the time
his
properly.
eyes
There we go.
approached the brainstem. It did not take out the midbrain. It did not destroy the cerebellum. It did not sever the spinal cord. It did not shock the spinal cord. It's simply behind the eyes. So
Let me go back a little bit more. Sorry about this.
would be mobile after the first shot because that shot went behind his eyes and did not incapacitating. That is, it did not approach the brainstem. It did not take out the midbrain. It did not destroy the cerebellum. It did not sever the spinal cord. It did not shock the spinal cord. It's simply behind the eyes. So there is certainly an open possibility that he could move after that shot.
How about the second shot?
Well, after the shot to the chest,
This is the confusion because I wrote, she said after the shot to the chest, describing the first shot.
the evidence indicates that they recovered a bullet from the spine and that the spinal cord had a concussion at that point, and that wound path included perforations to the heart, to the pericardium, and so forth. But especially that it would have hit the spine, that he would not be able to get up from that.
So could Mr. Ryan, after receiving the shot to his chest, seal?
Let me fast forward a little bit. Yeah, I think this is it.
Could go back to a yes or no question,
All right.
because could a person fall back with their hands on their chest? That's a possibility. Could they do that and have all the other blood stains where they are? That doesn't work together.
That does not work together?
Well, he has to some way have all this blood on his face and be in a different position.
Okay, so she testified.
This is it's not exactly a yes or no question,
All right.
Okay, so
because
Could he have previously?
I have the wrong timestamp, but I'll just say it here. She said that he got shot in the face the first time. The first he got shot. It's confusing because we don't know when the person got shot first and when the second shot went in. But he was shot in the chest and he was shot in the face, as testified to by the ME. The reason why I say that this was a chaotic testimony is because there is so much doubt with who shot who. But it was definitely testified to that Juliana shot. Her getting the plea deal, in my opinion, it was such a disaster. The Brooklyn says, "Do you think he will take the stand?" I think he should. I think he should. Just even if he's lying, which I think he probably would for his best interest, it will just cause doubt and he's gonna end up in a hung jury. But he might not, and they might just. I'm interested to see what the defense are going to present, because the ball is actually in their court now, because I think there was a massive misstep, right? Because they called the father, Christine Banfield's father, to come and testify, and the father testified to Christine's health conditions. They should have called the ME to follow up and testify to the possibility that she would not be interested in kink play on all of these things, because I think that's why. And a user on Twitter pointed that out, the fact that the value of the father's testimony was to show that she just wouldn't be into kink play, but it wasn't made apparent during the trial. But that what would have been an opportunity to bring that testimony in, because now we're up in the air. We're like, okay, but what are we supposed to do with that testimony? I felt like that yesterday. I'm like, okay, she had health problems. This is not the Brian Walsh case where where the defense is trying to say that Anna Walsh had health problems. It's not that kind of case. So I didn't understand why it would be there. Also, the defense also have the evidence to contend with, which is here. I need to wrap this up now. This evidence right here that was introduced on day one, I believe this is the key lynch. Everything has to be geared towards explaining this, and I believe they try to do that with the flow, with Joe's flow, and how it was possible to for it to flow forwards. But that's why the testimony from Graf, like I mentioned earlier, about the flow going downwards and me recording that's why that particular testimony was devastating, because it would not have splattered on to there. And based on what she testified to, the only way you could have got that flow is if someone lied down, right? That's the only way it would have like splurted up. As if you're lying down and it would have naturally pushed up because of the heart pumping blood, etc. So I believe this is the only thing that's tying him to the whole thing, because it's not smears. Also, and I'm pointing out the smear, because if it was smears, and this is where I wish she would have testified to this, because I didn't hear anything about what would have caused this particular pattern to emerge. They didn't even show. I don't think they showed. I don't think they showed this particular evidence, this particular material, to kind of get her opinion on what would have, on what the blood splatter would have been like. Or maybe they did and I missed it. I'll just put it out there, just to be on the safe side. But if he was hugging her and, like, you know, in that fear, because that was what was testified to on day one. They when the police came in, when the officers came into the scene, they saw him distraught of his wife, etc. So for all you know, it's rife now for the defense, and this is what I expect them to do, because I think at this point the defense are going to testify. Well, not testify, sorry. They're going to present evidence and now present their alternate theory, not in the sense that they're going to go on a opening statements and kind of testify. But I wouldn't be surprised if they present an alternate theory that makes it seem like Juliana was the one to have carried out this killing and Joe was the one coming in to just discover everything. I would not be surprised. They don't have the gun tested. That is huge. That is a huge opening to be exploited, and that's what I believe the defense are going to do. But anyway, I don't want to. I've gone 2 minutes over the time. I tried to keep this 30 minutes or under, so I do apologize for that. But hopefully, you guys do enjoy the live stream. I'm going to be streaming with the tastemakers who are my members. The live stream, as I'm monitoring the trial, I believe it starts at 3 p.m. UK time, but in the US it'll be 10 a.m. Eastern time. So you guys, hopefully I will see you in the trial room. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now.
Your Honor, I object!
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case!
Thank you everyone for tuning in for another Ketchup live stream. Make sure that you smash that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button to be notified of our future live streams. We go live regularly, bringing you case updates and recaps of ongoing trials, so make sure you hurry back on the next live stream. We also have more content on the channel that you can binge on. Check out the playlist that we have showcasing all of these contents. Without further, I go by the name of Heinz, your friendly neighborhood ketchup man, and I'll see you back in court.